Welcome to the Over 40 Alpha Podcast with your host, Funk Roberts.
We are live, and welcome to the Over 40 Alpha Podcast. This is episode number 156, and I am your host, Funk Roberts. I'm a former professional athlete turned master metabolic trainer, certified hormone and testosterone expert, and a health and fitness expert and guru, specifically for men over 40, 50, 60, 70, beyond. And I am your host, and this podcast is dedicated to you. This is where we talk about ways to naturally increase testosterone. We talk about the mindset strategies and mental health issues. We talk workouts and training. We talk nutrition. We talk recovery, both physical and mental. We talk sleep, supplementation, health issues. And today, on this episode, we are going to talk about resistance band training. And not just talk about it, because I've had a podcast episode where I talked about it, but today we have the GOAT. The greatest of all time. I want you to think about that word, GOAT. Greatest of all time. That means when you think about resistance band training, there should only be one name that comes to your mind. And today we have that name. We have that person on the podcast. Not only do we have the bandman, David Schmitz. That's right, David the bandman Schmitz on the podcast today. Good friend, also the person that I got certified through my band training. I got my certification through Dave, the bandman Schmitz. I've known Dave for many, many years. We've been in the same fitness circles in 15, 20 years, probably 15 years. But there is no one on this planet that has created more resistance band training, has transformed more lives with his resistance band training than Dave Bandman Schmitz. And the reason why I'm saying this is because when people think about bands, they think about, I've said this before, you think about, recovery, mobility, rehab, glute training, maybe even some powers, but you don't think muscle building. You don't think strength. You don't think functional training. You don't think fat loss. You don't think the things that you could generally do with dumbbells, things you can do with kettlebells, the things you can do with barbells, the things you can even do with your body weight. People think of bands as just like that, this is kind of easy training, but it couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, you can train with bands, and I suggest that men in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s at least implement band training into their overall training regime because of the longevity, the joint, easier on the joints. It's very versatile. You can bring bands anywhere. I mean, Angela and I used bands for a month, specifically a month during COVID when we were on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi, because we couldn't leave our room. So we trained with bands. Bands allow you to build serious muscle. We suffer from sarcopenia, serious strength and functional strength, usable strength, as our boy Dave Schmitz talks about. But you have to have the right programming, right? You have to understand how to use bands in this way, have the right programming, but you could train with bands for the rest of your life and be good. You could have big muscles, because remember, it's not just the training, it's everything else around it. You can build strength, and that strength's going to be usable. And the amount of exercise that you can do with bands supersedes any other piece of equipment because of the variations. So now, do you have to just train with bands? No, you can add other implements, other equipment. But again, this podcast episode is based on resistance band training. You're going to learn from the GOAT. You're going to learn from my certification, my mentor when it comes to resistance band training. We both have the same kind of mentality as the type of training, metabolic training, but man, he is on a different level. And I'm so happy that I was able to invest in myself, in my learning, to learn how to optimize training with bands. And it's not just for me. Anybody can train with bands. That's the great thing about it. So I'm so excited. If you know Dave Bandman Schmitz, if you don't know him, look him up right now. Go to resistancebandtraining.com. Look him up. He's really the only guy out there that's putting actual exercises, band workout exercises on social media, as opposed to rehab, mobility, glute training. Although all of those are fantastic using the bands, but we got to kick it up a notch, and we got to get more people involved in training with bands. So with that being said, I, as I mentioned before, have got my certification from Dave Schmitz. It's not the first time I've used bands, but I created a program called the Alpha Band Warrior Academy. This is going to be 12 phases. That's 12 months of resistance band training, both attachment-free and with attachments. This is going to be game-changing. I already have my founding members in there. I'm still looking for founding members who will get lifetime access to 12 months of band training. And don't worry, I got bands too, man. I got bands. I got resistance. I got funk bands, high-quality funk bands based on really the bands that Dave Schmitz actually helped create. So high-quality bands, but it's band training. You're going to get 12 phases, 28-day programs. Each phase has 4 follow-along workouts. It's got everything's follow-along. Okay, so I'm there with you, training with you, guiding you, but every training session comes with a warm-up and stretch, abs, of course, the main workout. We've got recovery routines so you don't get injured because, yes, they're easier on your joint, but you have to learn how to use bands, right? They're much more difficult than you think, and you're going to learn about that in this podcast episode. Plus, you're going to get nutrition, lifestyles, nutrition plans, both for men and women, accountability emails. We're going to do live coaching. Well, we do live coaching every month, and you have lifetime access, so you always have access to this. And if you act now before this, month, I guess, you still have a chance to be a founding member. Okay, you still have a chance to be a founding member, get that Alpha Band Warrior Academy shirt. But, we're going to start you off with Alpha Band Strong. Then we got Alpha Band Pump, which is more muscle building. Of course, Strong is strength. Then we go to Alpha Band 300. I love this one, 300 rep workouts. From there, we go to Alpha Band Warrior Iso Power. Isometric exercises, isometric holds, but on the foundation of using explosive power. So explosive power circuits with isometric holds. Then in phase 5, we're going to go to unilateral training. So you're going to get some attachment stuff. Then in phase 6, we're doing total body Metcon, Alpha Band WOD, so CrossFit style training. We got push-pull legs. We got warrior supersets. We got upper-lower. We got combo training and so much more. So join the join the Alpha Band Warrior Academy, over40shred.com/band workouts. That's www.over40shred.com/band workouts. You get these workouts, follow along workouts, accessible on the website, on my app. Go right now, grab it. I'm telling you, man, if you are thinking about resistance band training, if you like resistance band training, if you used to train with bands and then fell off, or if you're like coming off of an injury, or you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you may want, a little less joint, you want more joint-friendly training. I'm telling you, man, resistance band is going to change your life. Believe me, I got people in my program right now that are loving every single workout. So go to over40shred.com/band workouts. Okay, over40shred.com/band workouts. Join now. You can pay one time, lifetime access, or break them up into 10 payments, but you'll have lifetime access after you're done, because after a certain time, this will be a membership site that you pay monthly, and it'll be expensive. So with that, thank you so much. And now let's change gears and let's listen to the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He is going to educate us on the benefits of band training, the unique training style that comes with it, and so much more. Are you ready for this? I'm excited about this, and who knows, maybe we'll do something together in the future. Only time will tell. Now, enjoy the podcast. Welcome to the podcast episode. This is one that is long overdue. We have this man who we have on here is 100% the GOAT, okay? Now, people can throw that word in, here and there, but the GOAT is the greatest of all time. Okay, that's what the GOAT means. It means that if you put something like a topic or what have you, there's always one person who is or was the greatest of all time. And when it comes to resistance band training, there is only one GOAT. There's only one that comes to my mind, specifically me, and that's our guest today, Dave Schmitz, the bandman Schmitz. And I'm excited to have him on this podcast because I just got certified from Dave's certification, because I also am helping, the guys in the Brotherhood, what have you, with resistance band training, because it's perfect for men in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. It's perfect for longevity. And you're going to see right now how this 61-year-old man doing sprints still and training with bands every single day is doing it with the strength of resistance band training. So without further ado, welcome GOAT, David Schmitz, the man. Thank you for being on this podcast, brother.
Funk, thank you very much. That was probably one of the hugest introductions I've ever had. But as long as you think that, man, I'm good. I'm good. But we've worked a lot. We've worked on it for a lot of years, and I got some great advice a long time ago that said, well, two things. Number one, follow what you like, follow what you want to do, and be the best that you can. I'm blessed to be gifted to really enjoy training with bands. And being a therapist, training with bands, being in fitness, being an athlete, man, you put those four things together, and that was what I was blessed with. And that's what made this all work. If I'd have been just a therapist, this wouldn't have worked. But being all four of those, and they came together, and you have your DNA and my DNA, man. Workouts is just part of our fabric. It's part of what we like to do. It's what juices us. And man, I think we forget just how awesome that is, because exercise is the number one medicine that allows us to keep this body feeling and moving great. And we only got one. So you're grateful, and I am grateful that we have the one thing that we love doing is the one thing that helps us live life at the fullest, because we can keep our bodies moving. Now, divine intervention has got to be helpful, and but I can't control that. I can control what I put into my body and how I train it and how I work with it. And I just get really excited about that, and I know you do too. But man, just to have that as our DNA and in our fabric, wow, how cool is that?
I mean, it's amazing. And I think everybody can acquire that in their fabric, just with that daily grind. Not even a grind. It's just the consistency, and you start to really see changes, and you start to actually love what you're doing. And it's a little bit challenging, and you overcome the challenge. And then all of a sudden, it's just who you are.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
It's you got it. And you are,
and we're going to talk a lot about this, I think, today, but exercise has so many ways to get it done. There are just so many ways. And I challenge my membership group, you challenge yours. Hey, find that way. And if you're not finding it, let's talk, because there's a likelihood I can help you find it. And so don't sit there and say, well, I got to do CrossFit, or I got to do free weights, or I got to do bands, or I got to do yoga, or whatever. Don't get frustrated and feel you have to go down that avenue, because all of those potentially can get you where you want to go. So let's talk about where you want to go, and then let's talk about what you love to do, and what's your life like, and what's your schedule like, and what you can fit in. And let's start with that. Let's build. I always tell everybody, build on success. Start with something you guarantee you can be successful with, and then let's go from there. Let's start there.
Wow.
Okay. And so so when people email me and say, Dave, I want to get started with bands, where do I get started? My comment back to them is, okay, tell me what you're doing now. Tell me what you are willing to commit to that you like, and I'll build a program off of that. I'm not going to give you my program. I'm going to give you a program that fits where you're at right now. And that seems to really work well for people, because it's non-threatening, and they can come back to me and say, well, Dave, I walk 3 times a week. Perfect. Let's start there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So speaking of starting, let's dial it back and start with how you got into resistance band training, how, like, calling you the GOAT, but I mean, any person on the planet's going to call you the GOAT with resistance band training. My guys even know who you are. So how did you get into this? What was the origin story through the process? And then after that, I'm going to tell you how I was introduced to you. So start with yourself.
Well, I'll try to minimize this as quick as I can. But so I was a physical therapist. I worked strictly in orthopedics. And for about 3 years, I struggled. I was just struggling mentally because I didn't feel we were helping people. I felt we were just putting them through the factory, you know. And as soon as they could walk and move around a little bit, they were good to go and they were discharged. And that just didn't set well with me. And so I was struggling with that. And so a football coaching friend of mine said, "Hey, Dave, will you come down with me to Notre Dame University to go to this coaching clinic?" And I said, "Well, Coach, I don't do that, but I'll come with you just to travel with you." So we traveled down as a friend just to kind of shoot the breeze and go for it. While I was traveling, a couple of years prior to that, I started working with a guy named Gary Gray. And Gary Gray is a physical therapist. Talk about a functional GOAT. This guy's the functional movement GOAT. And not everybody migrates to Gary, but Gary thinks like I think. He kind of talks like the body is a total unit, which we all agree, but he talks it in terms of like almost like children. Like he'll say, "Hey, did you know that your right hip and your right shoulder blade are really, really good friends? They talk to each other every single day." That's the way he would correspond. And it migrated and gravitated with me. So I spent a lot of continued education time learning from him. While I was doing that, I went to Notre Dame, walked into the facility and was bored with the coaches, walked out of the coaches meeting, walked into their indoor facility, and there was Dick Hartzell. And Dick is probably the pioneer of resistance band training. This is an old football coach, and he was going crazy teaching athletes how to get faster with bands. And I just sat down, and I just sat there for literally 2 hours, Funk, and just watched him. And every minute, my brain had a new light bulb going off. It just kept going and kept going to the point where I got done in 2 hours. He had a little break. I walked up to Dick. I said, "Dick, do you realize that bands can do this, 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 and this?" And it was all based on the Gary Gray principles, but using bands. And they fit perfect. And he said, "Wow, I never thought of any of that." He looked at the guy that was training with, his partner that was teaching. He said, "Hey, you run with this course for the next hour. I got to talk to this guy." So we literally went and talked for an hour. Long story short, we got to develop a great relationship. I worked with him. I went down to his facility. I trained with him. Just got everything I could from him. And then came back and I started kind of saying, well, everybody kept asking me where to buy bands. So I said, "You know what, Dick, I'll put up a website and I'll sell bands for you just to help you out." And so we started that. And all of a sudden, people were like constantly asking me, "Okay, how can I use bands for this? How can I use it for this?" And I started training with them, obviously, all the time. And pretty soon, it just became very apparent that band training allowed me to incorporate all of Gary Gray's philosophies and development into my training. And I started doing it. And lo and behold, things just started exploding. Things like my patients in rehab, their rehab time was cut in half. And they were learning how to go from surgery back to walking. They were developing, their rotator cuffs were coming back quicker. Everything was moving faster. And what was cool, all I was doing was using my hands and the bands to rehab people. I would really, Funk, stay in this huge gym, this big gym, big open room, and I would rehab people. And meanwhile, a lot of my rehab friends or associates were going into rooms and doing things with them in rooms. Man, no, we're exercising right here. We're going to move. And my patient list kept climbing because people said, "Well, dude, I want to do what that guy's doing. I want to do what that guy's doing." And so my bosses said, "Hey, dude, you got to teach the rest of us." So then I taught them. Meanwhile, I ran a I started running a high school athlete performance program because I was helping ACLs get better, recovering.
Right.
And I thought, well, why am I waiting for athletes to come to me with ACL tears? Let's get them better first. So I started I started training athletes in bands. And lo and behold, we took a girls' soccer team that had been decimated with injuries for 3 years, ACLs, ankles, knee injuries, shoulder injuries. They were just decimated, and they were like ranked 2 or 3 in the state on a regular basis, but they would just get crushed by injuries. Came in, trained them for 10 weeks before season, no ACLs, no injuries, state championship. Boom. I said, okay, there's something to this. Launched a fitness program for adults, thinking, hey, I can get adults athletic with this as well. So I launched that. So in 2000, all of this took place from 1996 to 2000.
Okay,
in 2000, in 2000, I said, enough is enough. I'm going to launch an adult fitness camp. I'm going to call it the Fitness Band Boot Camp. And I'm going to launch a performance enhancement program. And I'm going to obviously continue rehabbing people, but I'm going to build resistancebandtraining.com. And let's get this thing going. And from 2000 to 2002 is what I did that for. Well, then in about 2003, it started to become apparent that I could maybe make this into something because I was getting a lot of traction with it. 2004, a company stepped up and reached out to me totally out of the blue and said, we see you doing a lot of stuff on band training on YouTube and so forth. Would you be willing to go ahead and help us develop a band? And I said, where do I sign up? And got in with them, worked with them, developed the band that we presently use today. 2005, we launched the band, and now that band is the band that we've used since 2005, the Quantum Band.
So this type of band,
that's yours, right?
Yeah, but the type of band.
Continuous loop bands, because that's all I train with.
Yeah.
There's no reason to train with anything else. But
no,
we launched it, and they said, okay, you'll be, I became basically they were a small company overseas, and they said, hey, we'll just grow with you. And so we literally grew together. But I allowed them, the one thing I allowed them to do is they have the patent on it, and so they can do what they want. But it's it's hands down to me, and no, this is not against your band. I hope it's performing well. This band has performed since 2005, and we haven't had to touch it. And my return rate, my quality rates, all the numbers measurables that you look for in a product quality have just stayed super, super high. And there's no reason to change it. And we actually at one point had 2 bands that we were playing with. And I asked the one company to go ahead and make a couple of changes with their band. They said no. I said goodbye. I went exclusively with our company. And it's been a great marriage ever since. And they're super with me, and we'd work really well with them. So it's been a great. We launched in 2005, resistancebandtraining.com. My wife came on board and said, hey, I don't want to run a business, but I want to be home with the kids, and I want to hang out with the kids and do what I want to do. I said, you got it. You have that. You can do whatever you want. Here's what I would like us to do. Here's going to be your role. She's behind the scenes. She handles all warehouse, all fulfillment, all accounting, all finance. And it just allows me to say, okay, just you take care of the money. I take care of helping people get better, development, marketing. And 2005 came, and it's now almost 2025. Dude, we're 20 years into this.
Wow, that's amazing. And this is, imagine being part of something that this between what you and that company did, you revolutionized band training, because bands before you guys, bands weren't like this. Bands were just the rubber bands with the thing on them, or different variations.
Well, I'll stop you there. That Dick Hartzell actually he's the one that exposed me to those. So if we want to go to the pioneer of flat continuous bands, I got to go to him.
Yes.
But what we did, his bands had a couple of things that I wanted different. And that's where we went and kind of tweaked some things and improved on them. And that's the band we launched. So my exposure to flat continuous bands is Dick Hartzell.
Okay.
You know, and that's so, but the Quantum band, the one that we worked with since 2005, that's ours.
Yeah, I've used them. They're amazing. I mean, that was my intro to continuous bands, was your Quantum bands, because there was nothing, I'd never seen something like that before. And like I mentioned, like if you imagine like 20 years, like doing something specific in the specific type of training that has lasted this long. And in fact, I believe it's having, and I don't know, because I have not been in the resistance band industry for that long, but I know that I've used bands in the past. I used them with my fighters, which is where I got introduced them to you, but I'm going to talk about how I got introduced to you in a second. But like, you know, I used them with my fighters. I always would remember, they would be like, man, how do I get better strength and conditioning with these things? And then I'd put them through, you know, like a lot of the explosive power movements that I could use with the bands I got from you. And I mean, they loved it because it was easier on the joints. It allowed them to get stronger and explosive, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, 20 years is incredible. But how I learned about you was men's.
I want to hear this.
It was Men's Health. Okay, so it was Men's Health or Workout Muse, one of those two. But Spartacus came out. Okay, this is called the Spartacus workout. Yeah, and the Spartacus workout had come out. Okay, and it was like a 10 exercise circuit. It was between Men's Health and Workout Muse. I think there was a combo, and there was a contest. Who can do the best Spartacus workout? So there was a whole bunch of fitness people. I put in my, you know, Spartacus workout, kettlebells, body weight. I shot it in my basement. It was pitch black. You could barely see me. But it's a follow along. So you have to do it to the Workout Muse. 60 seconds of work followed by 50 seconds rest. And I put it in. I'm like, all right, I got this. No problem. I'm going to crush this. And then on the day, I found out I was second place, runner up. Like, who won this? Dave Schmitz. And then I looked at his freaking, I was like, okay. There's levels to this game here, and that's how I learned. Like, all right. I watched the Spartacus workout. I even did it. That was one of the things I used to do with your bands, because I loved the way you put that together. We both enjoyed metabolic training because I got my certification through BJ Gador. So metabolic training was what it still is my foundation. But seeing how you use the bands, and I was just like, oh man, this is absolutely incredible. And then we connected, and you know, we've known each other since. But that's how I learned it. Like, I had no clue you were, and then I didn't even know that those type of bands really existed, right? And then when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this is levels. Because, you know, you see it, and then you go, well, let me just try this. Can't be that difficult. Yeah. Oh my God. To this day, I'm still trying to repeat that workout. To this day, that's still... It's probably one of the toughest,
challenging.
But
I should probably come back and launch a 60 version of that and see how close I can get to that. I launched that. I was probably, I'm going to guess I was probably around early 40s.
Yeah, probably
early 40s when I was at. So you're a little bit younger than me, but I think that's about when I launched it. And that workout, to everybody's credit, you know, being transparent, BJ Gador named that workout for me. He actually gave me the name for that workout, and I put it together and did it. But he was a little bit of an instrument behind that.
Yeah, he helped. I think because I mean, I took his certification, so I mean, I learned everything from BJ Gador when it comes to metabolic conditioning, and then he left and did Men's Health, so I created another condition in metabolic conditioning. But the thing is, that's where I was introduced, and the power of bands. So let's dive in, because you know, you've been doing this for 20 years. You continue to, there's like, one of the things I always say is, if there's one piece of equipment that probably has the most variations of exercises, would you say it would be the band?
Yeah. Well,
would you say it would be the band?
You're talking to the band man, so
I know
a little bias. There's a little bias here, but Funk, I've trained with a lot of tools, and there might be other tools that, maybe could do a lot of what bands do, but it always comes back to bands are the number one tool to train your body because, and I want everybody to write this down that's listening, bands are a muscle that respond just like your muscles do. And here's what I mean by that. Gary Gray, and this is one of the things his key philosophies is, hey, a muscle can't perform unless it gets stretched and loaded first. Okay, so if he has an example, just to help your listeners, if I'm going to jump straight up in the air, the first place I go is down. I load the hips and then I explode up. So that's what he meant by you have to load the system and then it explodes. Bands do exactly the same thing. You load them by stretching them and they explode. And so when your body, and this is just my personal philosophy, when you attach the band to your body, it neurologically feels the load and says, hey, this is what I do. This is how I work. This is perfect. And it goes nuts. And it loves that load. And so I just believe that our body is basically rubber bands. But in our body, the muscles are controlled by the nervous system. So the muscles have a controlling system. A band is a muscle without a nervous system. But that's okay. My body will handle the nervous and the control of the muscles. I just want to load the muscle with a muscle so they work synergistically together. And I just firmly believe that in a very simplistic manner is why the body responds so well to resistance. That said, I just want to make one disclaimer before we keep going, Funk, and that is the body is dealing with gravity every single day of the year, every single minute of your life that you're standing. So free weights are a gravity-dominated tool. So yes, you have to train with a gravity-dominated tool as well so that your body can handle gravity. However, nobody says that that's the only tool you should be training with, because besides gravity, we got to handle momentum, we got to handle ground reaction forces, and we got to be able to train in multiple planes. Free weights can't hit those things. They can't deal with momentum because they don't speed up. They stay the same. They can't deal with multiple planes because they're gravity dominated. And they can't go ahead and change speeds. So as a result, I can't influence momentum very much with free weights. With bands, they're a variable resistance. They're an ascending resistance, however you want to call it. But what they do is they speed up momentum. They can slow momentum down. What do I mean by that? By speeding up the band as you stretch the band out, put the band in your hips and walk out about 3 yards. And then come back as fast as you can. It speeds up momentum. It makes you have to work faster than you're used to. Good, because 95% of all injuries are a result of lack of momentum control. That's my physical therapy background that taught me that. So I don't want people to think I don't believe in free weights. I do. What I mostly believe in is that you got to train the body in all planes, in all speeds, in all ways to really make it perform. And interestingly, what I found, and I think you can help me out with a little bit, is as we get older, our body seems to be less tolerant to gravity-dominated training. And it's more tolerant to non-gravity dominated training. And I think the reason that is, well, our body is beat up from gravity. We're 50, we're 60 years old. Our body has been hitting gravity by walking and jumping and moving for years. It said, enough. Stop Stop pounding me with more gravity. Hey, train me in other ways. And so I think, sorry to go and rant, but I think that's why band training, is so efficient and so especially friendly 40 and over. Man, but it allows you to work really hard, which is what you and I gravitate to. We love working out hard. We just want to be beat up after we're done. And bands 100%. Allow us to train hard, really maximize our cardiovascular system, our metabolic system, but we don't have to feel beat up after. And I think that's what people want as they get older. They want that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, so
yeah, I know that's a lot.
No, this is perfect. And I think, you know, I got everything you said. You know, the thing I loved about band training and love about band training, because, you know, for many years I do kettlebells or dumbbells or body weight. And so now I'm kind of like seeing that my guys, you know, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it's about, you know, like you said, training in all ranges of motion. You can't do that, planes of motion. You can't do that with dumbbells all the time, right? You can't do that. And we need to train functionally so that everything we like to do, like, listen, in our 40s, we're still holding on to, you know, the jacked body. I'm learning that, right?
Absolutely.
I'm learning that with the guys in my. But when you're getting to about mid 50, maybe early 50s, it's more about like, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to have back pain, I don't want knee pain, I don't want to have shoulder pain. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to move, hike. I want to be able to pick up my kid. I want to be able to do things without like, I want to be able to pick something up and put it on the shelf without like having to have my wife or someone else do it because I have jacked up shoulders, right? I want to be able to train. I want to be able to do things so that I'm not in pain. And that's really where people get in their 50s, 60s, 70s, I think 60s and 70s for sure.
Oh, for sure.
But still want to be functional, still want to be strong, want to be able to run, want to be able to jump. You said the momentum injury, that's 100%. Like, because most people can't jump or run, if someone just touches you down a hill, you're done. You're falling down that hill because you don't know how to stop that momentum. You don't know how to slow it down. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, oh my God. You see all the falls. Yeah. So yeah, I love band training. And what I was talking about with the variations, it's like if we take a shoulder, like a shoulder press, right? We don't with a dumbbell, you can generally really press above head. Yeah, if it was really light, you could do this. But with bands, you put the band and now I'm pressing here, but then I'm pressing here, but then I'm pressing here, but then I'm pressing, like, there's so many levels of what you can do. And then if I want to go slow, I can go slow. If I want to, I can go fast, like the momentum. Yep. So, oh man, my head's getting blown right now.
And here's the other thing, shoulders specifically.
Yeah.
The rotator cuff is the number one injured structure in the shoulder. Pretty straightforward there. The rotator cuff is a stabilizer of the shoulder joint. The rotator cuff has to stabilize the most when the arm is furthest away from the center of gravity. In this case, let's call it your belly button. Okay, when I'm training with a band and I do a shoulder press, the band gets harder as I press. When I get to the top of the movement, the band is at its furthest stretch length. It's at its tightest position. But here's the cool part. It's training the rotator cuff to be a phenomenal stabilizer when my hand is way up here. So guess what? When I go to reach in real life outside the gym, when I go to throw, when I go to go ahead and do something aggressive with my shoulders, my rotator cuff says, no problem. You have taught me to be a stabilizer way out here. I'm strong, dude. I'm super strong. I can hold whatever you want me to hold up there. That's why bands make your joints better, because they maximize the stability in the peripheral joints, the knees, the ankles, the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists. They maximize the stability in those joints because of how they train you, the resistance they provide you. Free weights can't do that. If I do an overhead press When I get it to mid-range, we got it done. We can push it. But when I get it overhead, it's the same amount of resistance there as it was here. It's not any different. So from a stability standpoint, it didn't change anything. The bands train stability, specifically peripheral stability, when our arms and our legs are so far away from our center of gravity. And that's where injuries happen. That's why they happen. They don't happen when we're tucked in. Just think of if you're skiing down a hill and you're a terrible skier like me. I'm a terrible skier. You will see me tucked in, crouched, everything bent, and I'm in a cradle position skiing. Because if I try to stand up and go and spread out, I'm done. Gone. I don't have the stability to handle that, But, that's what our bodies do. If we're at risk, we tighten up, we get closer, we crunch up. If we're not at risk, we spread out. Well, life is much more about being spread out, doing things out here. You commented on what 45 and 50-year-old people start to realize something as they get older, that training isn't about what's in the gym. Training is about the opportunities that are created in the gym, outside the gym in life. So I call it your training should be maximizing life's opportunities outside the gym. If they're not, you should change. You should change, because ultimately what you do in the gym, nobody cares, including you. What you care about is carrying your grandchildren. What you care about is hanging out on a vacation as an 85-year-old with your 18 and 19-year-old grandchildren who are partying it up, and you're staying with them. You want to go ahead, and I'm going this weekend to hang out with my family near the farm. I grew up on a farm, by the way. We're going to hang out there. I'm going to hang out with my second nieces that are 6, 7, 8 years old. And we're going to be at the lake, and we're going to be swimming, and we're going to be going and doing some water skiing and jet skiing and stuff. Dude, I want to do those things. I don't want everybody else to be doing them. I want to do them. So my training has to influence my ability to be able to do those things. That's what bands allow me to do. They allow me to maximize my life outside the gym.
I love that you said that. That makes total sense. And yeah, I 100% agree with that. And just an example of what you're talking about with the shoulder stability, one of the exercises that I haven't been able to do for many, many years is overhead squats, whether it's with dumbbells, whether it's with barbell, or whether it's with kettlebells, right?
Yeah.
When I started to create some band training, one of the exercises that I don't even know why I put it in here. I put in overhead squats with the band. Okay.
Awesome.
Not knowing if I was going to be able to do it. Not knowing. I just said, okay, this workout's going to have overhead squats. I'm going to press record and we're going to see what happens. Because I did get under the band. Yeah. I got under the band. My arms were up and I just did one squat and I said, oh my God, I could you
can do this.
So my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then that was the exercise that I did. And just like you said, because the band allows your shoulder to say, hey, we're stable here. Now now my core can work. I can go down into that squat piece and keep pushing against the band, right? Yeah. The resistance against the band is allowing me to keep my shoulders in this place, to keep everything above. Yeah. And now I'm actually doing overhead freaking squat. It's so that one thing, when I shot that workout, was the game changer for me. I'm like, oh,
awesome.
That's
great. That's what I want people to realize. Yeah.
There's level to this game here. And I could probably keep doing that and build up the ability to do overhead squats with a barbell, which I've never done.
You just hit on it. So I tore my shoulder up when I was 38, and I did it with an eagle move one day in the gym. I just got done cardiovascular training, doing interval sprints on the treadmill. Had a little bit of time. I said, you know what, I'm going to bench press today. Hadn't bench pressed that much, but I'd been doing it a little bit. So I put on, 135, racked it out, put 185 on, put 200 on. All of it felt good. Said, I think I can do 215 today. Put it on. Came down, bang. I mean, it was a tenth of a second. Bicep ruptured. Rotator cuff ruptured. 7 millimeters. 7 millimeters. A normal rotator cuff tear is about 4 to 5 millimeters. Mine was 7.
Right.
My labrum shredded in 3 different places in literally a tenth of a second. I went to 2 doctors. They said, we can't help you. I said, dude, you don't understand. I'm a therapist and a fitness guy. I need this shoulder. Found a doctor, gave me a 50% chance of repeating. Why I tell you this story is this. The awakening you had with overhead squats, for 7 months, I rehabbed myself, and all I did was rehabilitate with resistance bands. I used them to assist movement, to resist movement, to help me learn movement, everything. And when I finished my rehab and kind of got back into real life, I did 2 years of nothing but band training. Did not touch a free weight, except for maybe a little bit of squatting. That was it. And it was that 2 to 3 year window that I said, holy cow, these things literally gave me back my life. I will never, ever go back to training with free weights the way I did. I go back. I think they're a good tool. Yes, I believe in them. I think the problem we have in life when it comes to free weight training is how people are stuck on the traditional model. And they don't have to use that model. It's not a bigger, go heavier model that they need. I talk about usable strength all the time. Usable strength is the strength you need to function well outside the gym. As we get older, there's less need for heavy lifting usable strength. There just is. You know, think about what you do now, Funk, versus what you did when you were 30. You know, I'm talking about outside the gym, outside. You know, when you're grabbing tires. Hey, we got to move these tires. We got to get them over here. You'd go do it, you know, because you could. As we get older, I would like to do that, but I don't get put in those positions anymore.
Right.
I don't. Right. And so I don't, there's, you know, some people say, well, yeah, I live on a farm. I still got to do heavy lifting. No, do you really? Or do you have equipment that allows you to do that? And you have to just manage the equipment. In most cases, they have the equipment, unless they're being stubborn. But my point is that usable strength is really important that people start to understand and respect. That day I tore my shoulder, that was a very poor assessment of usable strength. I had no reason, no need to be bench pressing that amount of weight. I never used that. Why am I doing it? You know, it was an ego thing, and that's why it was a mistake. But life happens for a reason, right, Funk?
Sure,
With that injury, it put me on a major passion fast track to band training, and I've never stopped since. Never stopped. Yeah. I never went back.
Thank God.
Thank
God you've never stopped.
It was what it just sold me. So I think we have those things in life that seem to be kind of a bummer, but yet I think we learn and we grow from them.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears here, because most people, when they think about bands, and even for me, and that's why I started to create more band training, because when people think about resistance bands, they think about therapy, they think about glutes, they think about recovery, toning, I guess, for women, and like flexibility. That's all they think about. And whenever I go on Instagram, aside from yours, you're the only person who actually shoots actual exercises like what we're going to get into. It's always that. Like there's a couple of band training Instagram pages. Almost 90% of those videos are all something to do with mobility, flexibility. There's a couple of explosiveness. Then there's maybe one or two. You're in there. So I see like strength, muscle, you know, those type of exercises to build strength, to build muscle, because people don't think bands can get them there. They actually think they're easy. right? They go, oh, bands are a little bit easy. Can I build muscle with bands? Can I build strength with bands? So please help our audience understand what bands are not.
I have
not.
I have battled bands. I will do and train with bands if it's my last alternative. The last alternative problem or issue. I've dealt with that since the day I started. And I have thousands of examples of how I've taken people that came to me and said what you just said. And I said, well, let's train for 15 minutes and see what you think. And I put them through a workout and they said, okay, time out. I got it. I recently did a seminar, and the seminar was, I think a lot of the people that were at the seminar were very free weight dominant, free weight traditional model thinkers. And so they weren't quite sure what they were going to get with me. And they came in and they were very open-minded and willing to listen. And I had a band package for all 30 of them waiting there. Okay, you got 4 bands in this package. Small, medium, large, whatever. I would grab a certain band and say, okay, I would teach them an exercise. And while I was teaching them the exercise, I would teach them about what they're feeling and what they're training besides just the muscle strength. 15 minutes into this 45-minute presentation, at least 50% of the band packages were now laying on the floor and people were just watching and listening for 2 reasons. One, they realized these aren't no joke. They can train all aspects of fitness and performance and get results. They're not just a kind of a fill-in. They also realized this is really freaking hard, and I'm not used to having to finish a range of motion with a movement. I can stop mid-range and come back because free weights allow me to do that. So when it comes to fighting the idea of that bands are the last alternative and they don't build strength, here's what I'm going to tell people to begin with. First and foremost, they're a resistance, and they're a really hard resistance. Yes, you can have a band that's 5 pounds, just like you have a 5-pound dumbbell. I can also have a 500-pound band. I have a 500-pound band. And people will look at this band. It's 4 inches thick or wide. It's 15 layers thick. All right. And it's a beast. It's a car tire in disguise. Literally. I mean, this thing is hard. And so I have yet to find somebody that can do anything but maybe deadlifts with it. And even when they do deadlifts, if they've been deadlifting free weight, they can't finish the movement because the band gets tighter as they go into their full deadlift position. And as a result, they can't finish the movement. And I often will question them and they'll say, hey, what's your biggest band? And I'll go, the 500-pound mega black band. I want one of those. I go, what are you going to do with it? And they go, well, we're going to deadlift and we're going to squat with it. I go, would you shoot me a video when you do that? I'd love to see you doing that. And so I never get videos. So can bands build muscle? Yes. Why? Because they're a resistance. People struggle getting results, building strength, because they don't push themselves. They pick the lightest band. They do a lot of reps. They think that's what they're supposed to do with bands. No. Train with bands just like you would train with any other strength training tool. Kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells, I don't care. Train the same way. If you're doing an overhead press for 30 reps using a 15-pound band, why? Why don't you go to a 45 to 50-pound band and let's get busy? Let's get after it. And you'll get stronger. So I don't know how, I can't fight the issue except to say, if you push bands and you follow a periodization training program, just like you would with free weights, you're going to get results. Now, are they the same results as free weights? Not necessarily, because they're different resistances. that's why I suggest train with both. Because I will promise you what you're not getting with free weights, you will get with bands. I promise you will. And probably a lot more. So yes, they work mobility. I think they're one of the best mobility tools you could ever use because, again, remember, they're a muscle. They're a muscle that stretches. So as you're training with them, the band will stretch and actually take you further into the range of motion as long as you have tension on the system. If you have tension on the system, it's going to make me go further into the range of motion, and I'm going to get mobilized every single rep. With free weights, a lot of the lifts are pretty short range. They don't take you, like a bench press doesn't take me further into a chest press. A rowing pulley takes me to where the stopper is, and I stop. I can't go further. A dumbbell row, I've got to really elevate myself to get a full stretch with the dumbbell row, a bent over row.
Right.
So a lot of times a free weight, just the setup doesn't allow you to lengthen like that. So they are a great mobility tool. Are they a great speed tool? Absolutely. And they are hands down, to me, the best power building tool you can have. And that's not me saying that. That's the late Louis Simmons saying that. A powerlifting god that used bands to improve the power of his powerlifters. Powerlifting's kind of funny in that powerlifting is all about lifting the heaviest weight you can and taking as long as you have to do it. But Louis figured out that power, you've got to be able to move the weight fast to really choose to create great power. His powerlifters focused on rep speed. And how he got them to do that was using bands, because the band would allow them to accelerate the weight because it's a variable resistance. It ascends. So it's easier starting the pushing movement than it is to finish the pushing movement. Plus, he figured out bands force them to finish the range of motion. They have to push through that sticking point. Remember the sticking point? We all understand that mid-range where you get kind of stuck with a free weight. Bands force you to blow through that. And he figured out that with his powerlifters, if he could teach them how to blow through that, they would be more powerful. So bands are, hands down, in my mind, the best tool to build power. And life is all about power, Funk. Life is all about power, because no matter how you do it, I'm sitting in a chair right now. When I come out of the chair, I got to do it with some power. That's how I answer your question about are bands really getting done what they do. You got to try them. I can't just tell you they will. But if you try them and you push like you do with free weights, they will get results very, very similar to free weights. And in most cases, you'll get even other benefits that you would not have gotten from free weights.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the reason why I was saying the misconception with bands is only because that's all we see. I did not expect anybody who, started using my band program or have done your band programs to know that the results they were going to get was from that. Because if you look at all of the videos, if you look at, the social media, which is what we're overindulged with, you don't see people doing what you're doing. You don't see people, so they wouldn't know. It's not their fault. And specifically when you're pulling, the old school rubber bands that usually break all the time because they're rubber and they have the little thing, the ones that broke all the time. I mean, I broke a million of them.
Yeah.
Well, those are a little bit easier to just pick up and use, right? You just pick them up and start using. Like you see people in the gym, they get just, get it and step in and pick it up. But these, the continuous loops, they're not easy to just pick up. So most people will be like, I don't know how to use that.
There's a learning curve there. No question.
You do need the learning curve. And I think that the more people, that's why I think there's going to be a resurgence in band, more people using bands as they get older to build muscle, to increase strength, to be more flexible, to increase their power, and to do it with easier on the joints, because it is a joint-friendly implement. That's the massive part of this. And what my guys are starting to learn now, specifically with the training, because I use bands for 2.5 months straight. I didn't pick up a dumbbell. I didn't pick up a kettlebell because I was shooting videos.
Yeah.
And then one day I shot. Yeah, the experience was incredible because one day I picked up a dumbbell. I said, okay, guys, I'm going to pick up these 50-pound dumbbells. I'm going to try to curl them. I have not touched dumbbells in freaking 2.5 months. And I picked it up and I put on 40 seconds of work, 20 seconds rest, and didn't stop. 40, 20. Of course, it got harder after 30, but the fact that I wanted to show them that, listen, I'm not losing. In fact, I'm gaining more muscle and more, the smaller muscles that weren't taking over, that weren't helping.
The stabilizers.
Weren't helping me before when I was doing that exercise.
Now they are.
Just doing dumbbell curls. Now, oh my God, like I have not touched any dumbbells. I'm sure that my chest press is going to be more. I'm sure that, a lot of other lifts are going to be better, just because of the different variation and just focusing on the same thing, going harder.
It's awesome that you experienced that. That's an awesome thing. Yeah, that's the other thing is the I have multiple anecdotal research studies where I've taken somebody and said, hey, give me 4 weeks and we're going to train bands and body weight. No gravity dominated external tool. 4 weeks. But you got to train with me and we got to go. And then we'll come back and we'll check your free weight strength, your squat. Whatever, if you want to bench, we'll bench. And let's see what happens. I would say I probably have done 15 of those types of adventures. I would say in 13 of them, all the people did more than their free weight after 4 weeks than they did previously. And the other 2 didn't lose a thing. Their strength stayed the same, But hey, you would have thought it would have dropped because you didn't touch a weight, But you're right on. What you experienced was all this small muscles that stabilize the body so you can generate maximum force were on board. And like the Louis Simmons example, you learned how to accelerate force, accelerate weight. You didn't just lift it, you accelerated it. When you accelerate a weight, it's a completely different game. It's power, baby. And power creates greater strength and greater levels of function. It's what our body is designed to do. And so that's what you experience, and it's a great feeling. I know it. I experience it. I experience it weekly because I do a lot of what I call contrast training, where I'll attach a band to a free weight movement. And now I have to accelerate the bar or accelerate the weight to finish the movement. Otherwise, I'm not going to finish. I can't finish the movement because the band is going to make it harder. And then I take the band away and I do one set with just the free weight. The weight literally flies off me. It just flies. It's so amazing. I do that just to keep my old body feeling like, hey, I'm fired up and ready to go, man. It's great. I mean, generate and I highly recommend, if you got in your membership, teach them a few contrast training movements and let them experience that, and they will absolutely go, we need more of this. Because if they like lifting free weights, they're going to love this, and their body's going to feel great. They're not going to get beat up with it.
Yeah. So I have a program called Bands, Bells, Bodyweight that only uses contrast training. It takes them from bands to bells to bodyweight. And so they see it. The exact same exercise using bands. Then we drop it with bells, and then we do it with their bodyweight, and it's just like, and it's all one after the other. So they're like, oh my God, my squat, like I'm still squatting after doing dumbbell squats, band squats, and now I'm like jump squats. The whole program is
awesome.
Contrast training using bands,
very
bells,
cool.
bodyweight. So
good. That's great stuff. That's great stuff.
Yeah. And it's built on the foundation of bands because I wanted to show them, hey, we can do like contrast training. This is like athletic training type thing to get you more explosive using all three implements, and you're going to see, even just with bands and bodyweight, like you said. But talking about exercises, what are your 5 top band exercises? Can I ask you that question? Is that something?
Yeah, no. I would say number 1 is a squat variation. My squat variation that I typically will go to is just a rack front squat. I like a rack front squat. I will do a Zercher squat as well. And I'll do a goblet squat variation. I have a goblet squat, Zercher squat, and front squat. But I like front-loaded squatting because it seems to fit more into what I do outside the gym. That's my first one. So I'll just say a rack squat is that. I like rack reverse lunges. So rack the band just like you would a couple of dumbbells or a barbell. But now I'm going to do a reverse lunge. Really love that because it generates, it helps me really improve my gait pattern, my walking pattern. Because as I go down into the reverse lunge, I got to learn how to load and really decelerate the movement. And then it's the perfect propulsion movement. It propulses me. So it fits with my running and my walking things and my hiking things that I want to do outside the gym. So I like those 2 as my go-to for strength from a standpoint of lower body. Upper body, love, it's going to be boring, love my advanced band setup with push-ups. And if people want to see that, and if they're saying, oh, I got to see this, I've got a video. If they go to my YouTube channel and they go to my chest workout playlist.
What's your YouTube channel? What's the YouTube channel?
My YouTube channel is Band Training Workouts.
Okay.
And in there, I have what's called a push-up circuit where I do an advanced band setup, and I think my first one is a decline push-up with my feet elevated, and then I do a regular push-up, and then I do an hands elevated push-up. 3 variations of push-ups. That's probably I just love push-ups because of the shoulder stability they give me, the trunk stability I have to gain, and just all the benefits I get from it. Again, it's a broken record, but it's stuff that I want to be able to do outside the gym. I want to be able to get off the floor if I ever fall down. I want to be able to push off the floor. I want to be able to push horizontally. I don't want to just in standing. So I like them. Staggered stance overhead presses, absolutely my go-to with overhead presses because I can use them as jerk presses. I can use them as I can do split jerk presses. I can go ahead and do a reverse lunge press. So I can bring my reverse lunge right into my press. So many different ways. So I split stance, put overhead press. That's probably my 4th one. 5th one, I'll tell you, I do a ton of rowing movements. Love, if you're going to pick one, hose pulls are my big one. I can load up with like really big bands. No, I grab the band.
Oh, yes.
I grab the band. Let me see if I can do it right here. So this is with a small band, but I'll just grab it like so, and I'm just doing hose pulls. Just doing hose pulls with it, but with a really heavy-duty band. I mean, we're talking using like a 200 to 250 pound band and really digging in my feet and really having to pull hard. But it's a great movement. It brings in rotation. It brings in lower body stabilization because I got to drive through the ground to pull. And then obviously great mid-back lat workout. But it's a total body workout. And think about how many times outside the gym again where you got to go grab something and pull it. You do that all the time. You do that all the time in life. And so I really like those types of movements.
Yeah, I love it, man. Those are great. I love all of those squat variations. You taught me the goblet squat, then the way to get it done with the towel, which is phenomenal.
Yeah,
the Zercher is phenomenal.
That's it.
It's something. I love it. Listen, I got certified by you, so I'm yours, like a student of the GOAT. Like it's unbelievable. I can't, you know what I mean? Like that certification course.
You
by
can
the
tell
way,
just some of the things you brought in. I can tell. I can tell, sir.
So anyone listening right now, you definitely need to get that certification, even just to teach yourself how to you really get advanced band training. I mean, my band program, I'm going to give you some basics, but Dave's going to give you the full Monty when it comes to band training. It's specifically,
yeah. No,
and,
I was just going to say, and if you're a beginner, about 2 years ago, I put together a 12-day mini course. And this thing literally, Funk, walks you one exercise at a time. And for 12 days, I teach you 3 exercises back-to-back days, and then I help you take those exercises and put them into a workout. Then we rest a day, and we start the whole thing over. By the time you're done, you have learned 25 band exercises, and you have 6 workouts. Now you're ready to go. And that is a great starting point for you. And from there, then the world is to you. The band world is yours. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Because if you learn these 25, you have the stability and the mobility and the ability to do probably another 100 exercises. If you learn these 20. And that's from years of training adult fitness and learning the top 25 exercises that everybody needs to learn. And that's why I built that, because I ran my adult fitness class for 20 years. I can tell you what people struggle with, just like you can. You know the movements that they struggle with.
100%.
And that's what I did, is I took those 25 and I spoon-fed people, here's exactly how you learn it and how you do it.
Yeah.
Here's how you can modify it. It's been very well received. So if you're a beginner, if you have never trained with
everybody,
continuous loop bands, start with that.
Beginner.
Start with that. And then you're good to go. Then jump into anything.
Love it. Yes. The way you created that was funny, because I think probably around the same time we did something similar for the kettlebell training. I think just because we've been in this industry for so long.
I remember you doing that.
So we did a kettlebell workshop where it was 1 week, same thing. We taught them all of the key foundational movements and then put them into a workout, so that after they did the 12 days, I think it was 10 days, then it was 28-day program using only the exercises that they that they learned.
Perfect.
And so after 28 days, you know the foundational movements of kettlebell training.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing as I did go through that 12-day. Was it 12 days? Well, I went through that. Before I did your certification, I went through that. So I know how powerful it is. It's great. And I think, yes, 100%. Everyone should start that first. Yeah. Everyone should definitely start that first, because that's going to give you everything you need, not only the exercises, but how to set up, the grips, like the different way to hold, and what to feel. And then once you're there, once you have that, then you have the foundation. Of course, you're going to always be learning, because there's so many different exercises you can do, which is exciting. But which, for instance, the Rambo press is my favorite, by the way. The Rambo press
the band attached version, or attaching it to your foot. So the attachment free
baby. Attachment free. Love that one.
You can do so many. You can do that in so many ways. Like I just did a pillar press progression on Instagram. I just posted it, I think, this week, which is just it's the reverse of the Rambo press. The Rambo press is a press, but this is a pulling movement. So I'll have to do the same thing with the Rambo press. I'll do a 5 variation of the Rambo press. I think, again, in YouTube, if you go under my shoulder training, I'm pretty sure I have a 5 or 3 or 4 progressive level for, I might call it pillar presses. I don't know if I call it Rambo presses, but same thing. It's progressions on how you can get started with it. But yeah, I love the Rambo press. The Rambo press,
I love it too.
Man. And what it's so cool is you can bring that in and you can modify it into trunk stabilization type stuff. You can go ahead and leave it set and actually go into 3-person crawling. You can just go nuts with that thing. It's so much fun.
I say there's so many band exercises and so many different variations that you will never get. Like you could, I honestly, well, you're the testament to it. 25 years later, you're still training with bands. Yes, of course, you pick up other tools, but literally the foundation of your training is with bands. You look absolutely amazing. 62 years old, doing 300-meter sprints after your training, 10 of them. Like when after 35, most people will never be able to run again. You're a testament to that, and it's band training, and I'm sure you're continuously learning. Like, oh wait a minute,
it's
this
constant.
is a new movement. Oh yeah, so I mean, I know.
Well, or it's a better
brain,
movement.
Better movement.
I constantly I just been playing around with my advanced push packet pan setup because the band, your body, and again, this is going back to Gary Gray's teaching of me. Your body has switches. And when pressure is applied on those areas, it flips the switch. For instance, in the palm of your hand, if you put the force in the palm of your hand, specifically the outside palm of your hand, and you press with that, it will engage your shoulder and rotator cuff instantly. If you go ahead and you push your heel into the ground, your heel will instantly engage your glute medius, will create frontal plane stability. So when you're walking and you feel like you're kind of shifting right and left, it's because your trunk isn't stabilizing, but it's also because your glute medius isn't helping you stabilize. And so by putting your heel into the ground, it immediately kicks in your butt. So, and that makes sense because when we walk, what hits the ground first? Our heel. Our heel hits the ground first. So it makes sense that would happen. So when I'm doing band setups, I'm thinking like that all the time. I'm thinking like, well, what happens if I place the band pressure here versus here? And because, again, these are things that I've just been gifted with, I can feel things like that. Well, I'm going to share it right away, but I'm not going to get technical about it. I'm just going to say, hey, dude, put the band right here, hook it right here, and press. And then tell me how your shoulder feels. And they'll say, I got better stability. I can press. And so, yeah, it's unlimited when you look at what bands are. But then, Funk, this body of ours is unlimited. Dude, we just got done with the Olympics. Look at what all those athletes, all the events, some of the things these people were doing. Breakdancing.
Oh, incredible.
They were breakdancing this year. They had judo. They had martial arts. They had gymnastics, sprinting, basketball. Tell me this body is not unlimited. It is. It's totally unlimited. So how do you train it? Well, you got to train with an unlimiting tool. A tool that allows you to train any way this body functions. And I just haven't found another one besides the Luke bands.
Amazing. And that's a great way to segue into your final thought. We're at our 1 hour thing. Just one question before you go into your final thought. Like guys who have shoulder injuries, shoulder pain, would you say, okay, listen, you got to get that strength back, get those muscles back. Like you've had some type of a shoulder injury and you're not doing anything. We got to get, sarcopenia is happening, right? Atrophy is happening. Would you suggest, hey, why don't you start training with bands and see how that shoulder goes because you have that ability to variable ability?
Here's the exact formula that I would tell them because I've answered several emails like this and I put together kind of a shoulder process. First, I ask them, can you do rowing? Can you do rowing movements? And most of the time they can row. Okay, let's get going with as much rowing variations as you can. Secondly, can you go ahead and put yourself in some level of a push-up position? Be it a kneeling push-up, be it a full push-up position. I don't need you to do a push-up. Can you put yourself in that position and hold yourself there? You can. Okay, so now we need to start building rotator cuff stability. So let's get you planking in multiple variations with your hands, putting them in different places, and let's get you planking. Let me know when you can go ahead and hold a plank for 1 minute and your shoulders don't collapse.
Use with the band or without?
No band. But now we'll bring the band back in and we'll say, now let's add the band into that. But then what I'll do, sorry, I get really excited about this, but then what I'll do is I'll take the band. So think of your plank. This is your plank, okay? This is my bad shoulder. The band is functioning just like the floor. It's creating that force back, so my rotator cuff is now engaging. Well, dude, I can do all kinds of stuff like this. I can do circles. I could go ahead, change my foot position. I can alter and change like this. I can move around. The whole time I'm stabilizing. But I'm putting my arm in this position, this position, this position, this position. Well, once I can do that, hey, now can we start doing short little amplitude press? Remember what I told you earlier in the presentation or the podcast? When you press the band completely out, the rotator cuff engages. So strength train it where it engages and not where it doesn't engage, which is way back here, way in the bottom of the bench press. Or that's why the bottom of the bench press is where everybody gets hurt, because they're not stabilizing. They can't stabilize there. So if I had a guy with shoulder pain, that's what I would start. I would start with any kind of mid-back rowing, pulling movements, planks, and then once he can do those, I'd stand him up and say, can we start with some pushing, some hold pushes, stuff like that. And then once we get that going, then I can vary it in multiple ways and get it going. But in most cases, the rotator cuff has gotten tweaked, it's gotten inflamed, it's gotten irritated for some reason. And yes, you're right. It has to be strength trained. You have to start building the resiliency back up in it. But where you start is the key. So tell me where you have success, and we'll start there.
Love it. So where can people find you? Give me all of the.
All right. Well, website, resistancebandtraining.com.
Yeah.
They can go to YouTube to band training workouts. They can go to my Instagram, which is the band gym, at the band gym. They can go ahead and they can contact me at dave@resistancebandtraining.com. And just so people know, and again, I don't know how you handle your email correspondence. I know with your members, they can talk to you directly. But with me, if you email me at dave@resistancebandtraining.com, you get dave@resistancebandtraining.com. You get me. And I answer all my own emails. So I don't have an assistant or somebody. If you order from us and you become a customer of ours, my wife, who handles all fulfillment and customer service as it relates to products, she might correspond with you for some reason if need be. But outside of that, you only get me. So that's where I would start and try to get in touch with me there. And that's, we also have a Facebook page, Resistance Band Training Facebook page. You can go there. I'm not as good. I'm really good in YouTube and Instagram, and I'm really, really good at email. So I'm an old school guy. I'm still an old school guy. I'm not like all these young guys that are DMing me. And so if you DM me on Instagram and I don't respond, you should email me and I'll respond.
Most of the guys, most of the people listening, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, they're old school.
Yeah,
So
they're still old school. They like email. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you so much, brother, for being on the podcast. This has been amazing. We're definitely going to have you back, talk more band training as more and more people gravitate to it, specifically as we're getting older, right? 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, the best implement to include so we can continue this journey.
Yeah, and your members and the people who follow you are super lucky because you have done the greatest thing, and you've gone out and said, hey, I'm going to learn about this stuff. Thank you for coming to me to learn a little bit. I appreciate that. But you've said, hey, I'm going to learn this stuff and pass on the word. So thank you for pushing and promoting Resistance Band Training, not resistancebandtraining.com, Resistance Band Training, because we're going to get a lot more people better because now you're out there talking to people as well. And to me, that's the mission. I just want people getting better. I want them better, and I don't need to be that person doing it. If I can help you get people better, man, respect. I appreciate it. So thank you very much for doing that.
No problem. Again, it's all you, my man. It's all you.
All right. Very good.
Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon.